And welcome to The Right Angle, bringing you news, culture, and politics from a conservative perspective. Let's get into it. So, in a crucial ruling, the Supreme Court clarified that presidents are immune from legal action for official acts performed as part of their duties. They also said that this immunity does not extend to unofficial acts. And there was a curious piece there about what qualifies as what they call partial immunity for actions that fall into a gray area for things between official and unofficial. So, to any sane person, this ruling is vital to our republic. It sort of reaffirms and confirms that while the president may be able to perform their duties without undue legal interference, they're not really above the law. And I say really, they're not absolutely not above the law when it comes to actions outside their official capacity. So, to me, this decision maintains the balance of power envisioned by the founders. It ensures accountability. We've talked a lot about that in the past few weeks, while also preserving the executive's ability to function effectively. And that's an important piece of this, too, because you can't have a president who operates as a scared person when he is trying to negotiate on behalf of the nation. But for some, this has been misinterpreted.
So the Supreme Court ruled that a president has complete immunity for any act they do in their official capacity as president. And Joe Biden is still president. And the Supreme Court is counting on Joe Biden to continue to be the good man that he is and not abuse what they have just given him. But personally, I think Joe Biden should go full Monty on this. I mean, in his official capacity as president, maybe he could just disband the Supreme Court or unalive Donald Trump. I mean, he'd have complete immunity. He's president, right? That would certainly solve a lot of our problems.
So there you have it. Since this SCOTUS ruling said presidents have immunity for official acts, why don't the president just blow up the world? Why don't they just hunt down all their enemies? Why don't they just kill all their political opponents? That's essentially what we're hearing on the other side. But, contrary to these people, the Constitution does provide a mechanism for Congress to remove a sitting president from high office for high crimes and misdemeanors. This is called impeachment, where he can be forced out. It has to be a full impeachment. The Democrats like to say this president has been twice impeached. That's not exactly forthright, as you have to be impeached through the Senate as well in order for it to count. Trump was acquitted in both those cases. One was for the Russia hoax that was paid by Democrats, and the other was for a benign phone call between Trump and Zelensky where the president was negotiating in his official capacity. Nothing like where you saw with Joe Biden, who got the prosecutor fired for interfering with the Burisma deal his son worked on the board for. So, no, you can't just go murdering people at will. That's not a thought of a rational person. To me, it's crazy that they think this way, really. However, this ruling had other implications as well, I think, that a lot of people are not talking about. And I wanted to play this clip from @Viva Ferrari on X about something within the concurring opinion by Justice Clarence Thomas that may have implications for other pieces of the whole lawfare against Donald Trump.
Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, the moment we have long been waiting for. The Supreme Court has issued its ruling in the Trump immunity case. 6-3, I think I can summarize the decision as follows. There is absolute immunity for presidential acts within his constitutional powers. There is no immunity for purely private acts, and there is presumptive immunity for acts within the outer bounds of the presidency. That was the 6-3 majority decision. I say more interesting than the majority decision was the judicial butt slapping by the majority of the dissent. I mean, you read their assessment of the dissent's opinion and basically accuses them of ignoring the Constitution, ignoring the separation of powers, and fear-mongering because they have no reason, logic, or arguments to rely on.
The dissent's positions in the end boil down to ignoring the Constitution's separation of powers and the court's precedent, and instead fear-mongering on the basis of extreme hypotheticals about a future where the president, quote, feels empowered to violate federal criminal law, end quote. Ouch.
Justice Clarence Thomas addressed a question that had been brought before the Supreme Court by way of amici, whether or not special counsel or ordinary citizen Jack Smith's appointment was lawful in the first place. And Justice Clarence Thomas points out that, it's important to preserve the Constitution. That's what this decision does. It preserves the powers of the presidency, and it preserves the republic, the constitutional republic that is these United States of America. But he said more of a threat, potentially, than not recognizing presidential immunity or offering presidential immunity where the president obviously should benefit from presidential immunity. That's not going to create someone who's above the law and tear apart the republic. But what might? The unlawful appointment of special counsels who are actually ordinary citizens that were not created in virtue of any aspect of law. I'm going to take my glasses off and read this to you. This is Clarence Thomas concurring but issuing his own decision, and I've highlighted some of the sections. I write separately to highlight another way in which this prosecution may violate our constitutional structure. In this case, the Attorney General, capital A, capital G, purported to appoint a private citizen as special counsel to prosecute a former president on behalf of the United States. But I am not sure that any office for the special counsel has been, quote, established by law, end quote, capital L law, as the Constitution requires. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, by requiring that Congress create federal offices, quote, by law, end quote, the Constitution imposes an important check against the president. He cannot create offices at his pleasure.
So there you have it. So just to summarize, what he's saying is that, well, in the piece about the Clarence Thomas concurring agreement with the majority, is that you can't create your own office to go after your political opponents without input from Congress. We have co-equal branches of government: the judiciary, the legislature, which includes the House and the Senate, and then the executive branch, which is the presidency. They are equal powers. None are more powerful than the other, right? So you have to remember that the DOJ is under the executive branch, the FBI, all the ABC bureaucracy, administrative state organizations are under executive and serve at the will of the president. But that does not mean the president can create these offices like a special counsel under Jack Smith to go after their opponent. So I think, overall, the Supreme Court decision is a victory for constitutional principles because it strikes a balance, where protecting the president's ability to lead while ensuring that no one, not even him, is above the law, sort of stating that in the opinion about the official, unofficial, and in between. Important is it also reaffirms that a president can still be held accountable for official acts through the process of impeachment. This ruling just enforces the importance of accountability, nothing more. These things were already known. So no, you can't just go take someone to court or try to get them locked up with crooked DAs because you don't like them. And no, you can't firebomb the Supreme Court or firebomb your opponent legally just because you have political disagreements. I mean, to even have that sort of thought process to me is very foreign. I don't understand it. Over the last few weeks, we've seen win after win for common sense in this country. I think that people are ready to return to normal, but we shall see. I do stress that folks out there don't get complacent with all the wins. Keep striving. There's a lot to do before November. We have to keep that in mind. But anyway, thanks for joining me today. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. You know the thing. To hear more from The Right Angle. And as always, remember to seek the truth.